right, kid. Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Handsome Homebuyer podcast. I'm your host, Charles, AKA the Handsome Homebuyer, AKA Captain Permit, AKA
El Judío Maravilloso.
Boom. Anyone you want to be, just as long as you'll sell me some cheap real estate. Today's guest, out of control, is a quadruple threat. But before we get into that, you know who else is a threat to the building department? Captain Permit, 516-513-8838. And if you have a house that smells like cat pee, commercial property, anything real estate related, I'm quick, I'm easy, I'm low maintenance, I'm a good time, I'm all cash, I want to buy it. 516-777 sold. It's July 5th. We're a little banged up because it's July 5th, but we're making it happen. Failure is not an option. Big things happened this week. Finally, after a year, that's right, people, a year, you want to talk about persistence of hunting down and working this deal. I got the contract in my hand, feel it, look at it, smell it. It is there. 3 acres, oceanside, redevelopment, tons of possibilities. We're going to take you guys along the entire process in the vlog episode because you can see what it's like to take a piece of property, subdivide it, reposition it, build something absolutely massive that you can only dream about but never had the balls to do. But we're going to do it because at the end of the day, I'm more afraid of being average than I am of being broke. So, speaking of definitely not average, today's guest, like I said, is a quadruple threat. I'm calling him the Joe Rogan of Long Island, right? Long Island's Joe Rogan. He was a police officer. By the way, sir, thank you very much for your service.
Thank you for
all those years.
Appreciate it.
He's a powerhouse realtor. We've done a number of deals together. We have a bunch of deals in the pipeline. I hope we do a ton more deals for years to come. He is a comedian. He's an actor, and Lord only knows what he's going to get into next. Frankie Falia.
Thank you for having me.
From Keller Williams.
Thank you.
It's good to have you, man. It's good to see you.
Yeah, likewise.
So like I was saying before, there's I was thinking of just certain topics, and I'm like, I got to get Frank on here because you've done a lot of things, you do a lot of things, you're constantly growing, changing, you're a great role model to other agents. So I guess I want to take it back a little bit. I want to kind of touch briefly on your career as a police officer. You were in New York City.
NYPD, yeah. Started out in, I like to say I grew up in Brooklyn. I mean, prior to that, I was with New York City EMS.
Did you grow up in Brooklyn?
No. Meaning that I was a young kid from Long Island. I went to New York City EMS in Brooklyn.
Okay.
It's a whole different world. At the time I was a cop in Brooklyn. I was working the second deadliest precinct. It was.
And you were working.
Now it's all gentrified. It's $1 million homes.
What year? You were a police officer from what year to what year?
From 1991 to 2011. I did 20 years and
so 91. I'm trying to think. So Giuliani came in the 90s, right?
I was but I was hired under Dinkins under the that program he had. I forgot what they called it.
I'm just trying to get
hiring 2,200 cops at a time.
I'm just trying to get a gauge of you saw New York City go from disaster, right?
Yes.
It was in that point in the 80s into the 90s. It only started to get better. Let's say 2000 plus, or it's getting better the entire 90s, but it was a ride.
Correct. So the precinct I worked in, the 7-7, that's all gentrified now. It's all $1 million homes, and that's the Crown Heights. It's Crown Heights.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of Bed-Stuy. It's a little bit of just kind of touches a little bit on everything, on a few different areas. But like I said, I remember being a cop there, and we had a lieutenant that would say he was off by the time frame, but he was right. He said, in 5 years, this neighborhood's going to turn around. Mm-hmm. He was off by about 10 years.
But
however, you could buy a brownstone when I was a cop for $250. Yeah. Now, in that area, they're over $1 million.
Yeah.
It's amazing how things change.
It's still, but by the time you left, it was already, the prices were already going up at that point.
They were starting to. I left that precinct in 2006 when I got promoted to sergeant, and things were starting to change over. The neighborhood was starting to get a little gentrified. And
were you in a car? You were out on the street?
I was in a car. I was patrol.
See, the interesting thing, I remember you and I had a conversation about this. I don't know if you remember a while ago about just you're really good with people in general, which is what helps you in your real estate career and the other things that you do. I'm kind of curious to know how that experience of being a police officer and what you have to do to deal with people, to talk them down, to helps you now in your business life.
Well, exactly like that.
Yeah.
I kind of understand where people are coming from. I do have a little bit of. It's a way of explaining things. Like I don't sugarcoat stuff. I mean, I'm not harsh to them, but when I have to tell them something, it's straightforward.
Yeah.
And but I also know, like, if I meet somebody and they're talking to me about real estate, I'll know right away if they're a serious buyer or if it's a seller that's got astronomical price in his head, that it's a waste of time. And I don't have the fear of saying, look, I'm not the right agent for you, because I'm not going to waste my time.
Is that kind of level of street savvy? I at 39 years old, I've been noticing lately. I'm like turning a little psychic here. And I guess it's just from years of one of the benefits. I mean, aside from as you get older, I have less and less hair. Well, it grows where it doesn't grow where I want it to grow, but then it like grows where I don't want it to grow.
Yes.
Like I had a 6-inch long ear hair the other day that just appeared out of nowhere. But one of the good parts about getting older is you kind of get this spidey sense, and I guess it's from all the experiences in the years. You just kind of know.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, your gut tells you everything. If you follow your gut, you'll never go wrong.
The interesting thing about you also is, I know you for some time now, long enough to know, and I've seen you through enough situations to know that, like, you never lose your cool. You're always like, I've never seen you elevated at all, ever.
I've gotten, as I got older, I used to have I used to fly off the handle, bad temper.
Yeah?
But as a cop, you have to maintain the control,
Yeah.
and you really can't lose it. So it's helped me as I got older to I also have a different outlook on life. I look at things because as a cop, you're real cynical, and you have no choice but to be, because you're only dealing with. I mean, I shouldn't say you have no choice. You choose
hard.
how, but it's very hard. But you always had that feeling it was us against them. They're out to get you. Cops only hang out with cops, and it's true. And, firemen hang out with firemen because we feel we only understand each other, and the general public doesn't.
That's interesting.
So you become very cynical, but I've gotten away from that. I look at life a lot more positively now.
You're in a different space. Well, I mean, you got to think about it in all fairness. People. Yeah, if you're a police officer and you're in an area like that at that time, even if you're a police officer in general, most people you come in contact with are not super happy to see you. Not that it's you, but like,
correct,
something bad is going on.
Correct. And it took me a while to learn that it wasn't me that they didn't like. It was what I represented.
Yeah, they have no idea.
They didn't. But again, I was young, and I was 24 when I became a cop. And I was full of piss and vinegar, as they say.
What drove you to that profession, just out of curiosity? I don't know, is family lineage or...
Well, my uncle and my cousins, they were all cops as well. My dad was a businessman. He was a stockbroker.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he was a stockbroker. I don't know. I tried working on Wall Street. I didn't like it. I always felt like I needed to be outside. I'm not a construction guy. I can barely turn a screwdriver. But there was always had this need to be involved and get in the middle of stuff. And so I started as a volunteer fireman.
Okay. I
became an EMT. Best job I ever had. I loved it. I went on to New York City EMS. And from there, I was like, this is a great job. This is so much fun. The cops will be even better. So I went on to become a cop. And also a great job. I mean, front row, as we like to say, it's a front row seat to the world's greatest show,
Sure.
So from EMS, I went on to the police department.
And then what, you did 20 years and you were
I did 20 years. I went to work one night, and I was standing on the corner of 45th and 7th Avenue in Manhattan, Times Square, and I looked around. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I was working 7 at night till 4 in the morning.
Even at sergeant at that stage?
Yeah, because at that time it was called Impact.
Okay.
The new rookies would get out of the police academy, and they would put them in certain areas, and Times Square was one of them. So I was an Impact sergeant. Okay. So they had them working basically. It was a modified overnight shift, basically. Yeah. So I did that. I just didn't want to do it anymore.
So at that point, had you already put 20 years in?
Yeah.
Okay. So it wasn't your plan to like get in and get out of 20. Like there's certain people that get in, they're like, all right, I'm going to do this for 20 years. I got the benefits, I got the pension, and then I'm out. You just literally did it until you were like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like you had a moment where you were like, I just don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
But the really cool thing is this. So how much longer did you stay? When did you leave? So you have that moment. You're on the street corner. You're like, I don't want to do this anymore. When do you retire?
Probably a few months later, because I had time, like vacation time that I needed to burn, and I had they called it comp time. I had time that I had, as a cop you could take your overtime in cash or time. Yeah. Sometimes you couldn't take it. Sometimes they give you, like, listen, would you take it in time? They couldn't make you do that, but so I would build up time.
Yeah.
And so I ended up I probably just made that decision like January, February, and then by April 30th I was out.
Wow. So I want to touch on that for a second. I don't know if, for me, that's a really big deal. I don't know if you give yourself a lot of credit for that, because 99.9% of people would have sat down in the corner and be like, I don't want to do this. And then they would have proceeded to spend the next 30 years doing it anyway and hating their fucking life.
Well, I did struggle with the decision. I didn't, as much as I made the decision, I'm
trying to give you credit. Don't.
No, I appreciate that.
Don't take it away.
I appreciate that. But I ended up at that point I was struggling with it a little bit. Like, am I doing the right thing?
Yeah, of course. That's only natural.
And then I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm done.
But at the end of the day, I mean, the time frame speaks for itself. Obviously, you think you go back and forth. You've done something for 20 years. That's a long time. Right? And all of a sudden, you're going to just make a life-altering decision. How does it impact your finances, your family? What are you going to do next? What's the next stage?
Well, after I retired. I retired in April. I figured I would play golf and fish.
Got bored.
That didn't work out. Well, that didn't even work out because my wife ran off to work, and at the time my kids were young. They were 11 and 5 or 11 and 7, something like that.
So at that point, she had been basically taking care of them full time.
Yes.
And that was like a role reversal.
Which, as soon as she ran out the door to go to work, I should have been suspicious. So it was a tough decision. So I had the kids for the summer, and then a buddy of mine suggested about getting my real estate license, and about a year later, I got my license that November of 2011, excuse me, and that's when I started working real estate. I was over at Century 21, but it was about a year later that I really started to struggle with who I was, because for 20 years I was officer filer, sergeant filer, cop, whatever you want, and I was just Frank. And I was like, I don't know who Frank really is.
There's two things really quick I want to touch on. I want to go back to the fact that you, regardless of what you say, you made a pretty quick decision, which is huge. Like, I think that translates into your entire life of what I know you is. You take action all the time. Like, you want to do something, you go and do it. And I think that's so powerful for people to understand and realize. It's like, if you want your life to change, you have to change your life.
Right.
The moment you were unhappy, you made a conscious decision to change your life, and that's really uncomfortable, I guess, for you, for everybody. But like you have to do that. Secondly, your point, which is very interesting, I realized this not that long ago, maybe a few months ago, that when I was about 30, I went through like a fork in the road where I was in business. I had a Mako franchise, and I was like, I'm not happy. Similar thing to you, just different business. I'm like, what am I going to do? And then I'm like, I found real estate, and I was like, is it going to be real estate? Is it not going to be real estate? Like, what do I do? And ultimately, I took this road. But it seems that, and now I think it becomes more frequently as the world changes, that there's constant kind of forks in the road.
Yes.
Every maybe 5 or 10 years in people's lives, there's going to be a situation where you have to really like make a hard left or a hard right, and you have to be prepared for that.
Yes, and. To do something and be unhappy doesn't make any sense.
But a lot of people do it.
And I know, and they do it, and people have fear of change. People have fear. Like, I have a friend, he's an attorney, and he doesn't like it, but he would love to be more in like a sports writer or on a sports radio show.
That's interesting.
And he's got great knowledge of sports. He's better than a lot of the guys that are already doing this on the radio, but he won't. His traditional idea is, I got a family I got to take care of, and I can't take this leap, because if it doesn't work out, what am I going to do? And what happens is everyone always looks at the what if it doesn't work out. I kind of look at I'll think about that if it doesn't work out, but then I say, but what if it does? You know, why do we always focus on what if it doesn't?
Yeah.
When we should always focus on what if it does.
I think that also depends on your support system as well. Like, I'm very lucky, so in that situation where I'm like, what if it doesn't work out? I'm like, I get to go live back with my parents again, or my mother who cooks her ass off and does my laundry. I'm like, this is awesome.
Absolutely.
So what do I really have to lose?
Absolutely. You know, and I understand, you know, it might be harder for someone who's paying the mortgage and look at it, but
and has kids. Like, I get it.
You know, but and I was fortunate because by retiring I have the pension. So, you know, I'm guaranteed a check on the first of every month. So if I don't have a deal coming through, or if I take a chance to do something and it doesn't work out, or I'm waiting for money to come, I still have that pension. So it makes it a little easier for me to do that.
But I don't think, I mean...
But I would do it anyway.
That's what I was going to say. I don't think I don't think the fact that you're like, okay, I have this check coming in allows you to be like, all right, now I can take risks. I think somebody...
I always took risks.
I think somebody in your position who wasn't like you would just be hanging out, collecting that check every month. I'm sure you know a lot of guys that you work with.
And that was a fear of mine also. You know, I didn't want to be... My wife used to own a bar in Merrick.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And there was a lot of old timers in there. And it was a great place, great people.
Is it still around?
No, it ended up closing because the landlord didn't want to. She sold it.
The lease was
She
up.
took it back and the landlord didn't want to give her a 20-year lease. He said, "I'll give you the remainder of what's on there."
Yeah.
And the place needed to be cleaned up, and it wasn't worth it.
It didn't make sense. Yeah.
So he had another deal going on. That's what it was. But good for him. Good for us. I didn't want to become one of the old timers hanging out at the bar all day.
Yeah.
And I was afraid of that. And so I'm glad. Listen, we loved owning it. You know, she made a lot of great friends, but I'm glad it didn't work out.
Yeah. Well, it ran its course. It had its time, and that was
Absolutely.
it. So then, kind of talk to me. This is an interesting thing. I didn't know this was going to go here, but I'm really interested to hear about it now. When you retired, you were 44, 45?
44 years old, yeah.
Okay. So, you were really, literally, like, right on the 20-year mark.
Yeah,
You
it
hit
was, it was 20 and a day.
So, what is it like to be... Because when I was younger, I was like, midlife crises are bullshit, right? But now as I get closer to 40, and I look around and I see people, like, melting down, I can see how people from 38 to, like, 50 have a real midlife crisis and, like, just fly off the handle, depending on what their life has been like. Right? So now you're in that prime midlife crisis zone, like, danger zone.
Right.
And you're like, how do I reinvent myself? Like, who is Frank Foglia if he's not a police officer?
Now?
No, I'm saying at that point.
Yes. And that's where, like I said, a year after retirement, I really struggled with who I wasn't even doing real estate work. I was just kind of laying on the couch, literally. And my wife said to me, "Are you ever going to go to work again?" I said, "I don't know." I was just so unhappy not knowing who I was. And then I don't know what happened. I just got out of it. I started putting the effort into the real estate. Got a couple of deals going, and then I just started to realize, hey, listen, you know what? Actually, it was a friend of mine who's a retired fireman said to me, I don't remember the exact words, but basically what he said was, you had your time, and now it's over. So it was like, enjoy what you had.
Yeah.
Stop looking back. And there's actually
what was it about? Was it about being a police officer, or was it just a massive change?
It was a massive change. I mean,
Okay.
I was adrenaline rushes,
Yeah.
the camaraderie of the guys working in Times Square. I mean, it's the greatest city in the world, and there I was right in the heart of it. It was just such a big change. My life was also kind of structured because you had to go to work at a certain time. You had to stand roll call, or as a sergeant, I did roll call.
Yeah.
This was my lunchtime. This was my, and then of course you got your calls and throughout the course of the night to handle jobs. So your life was structured. Now all of a sudden I had no structure because I could do whatever I wanted, and I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's I experienced that similarly when I got into real estate. It's almost unnerving to a certain extent because now there's a lot more pressure on you to work and structure, because like when I had the body shop business, I was there from 7:30 in the morning till 5 o'clock. Snack, meal at this time, whatever. Like everything was very regimented. Yeah. Now it's your days are your own, but if you don't set them up right, you're not going to get anything done.
You'll get nothing done, and the day will just be wasted, and then you'll just be looking like, well, what did I do today?
But what really got you into real estate?
It was my buddy.
Yeah.
Said to me, when you retire, you should think about getting your real estate license. And he said, because he's an attorney, he pays a fee to the state and he's automatically a broker.
Yeah.
And we were going to start our own company.
Nice.
I was going to go work for him. So I said to him, well, before I come work for you, why don't I go work for one of these big companies and learn how to be a realtor and understand what it was about. And that's what ended up happening. We obviously never, our plan didn't form as we thought it would. So I stayed with, at that time, it was Century 21.
Yeah.
Then I went over to a little mom and pop outfit, Select a Home in Merrick.
Which is when I met you.
Yes. And then from there, I went over to Keller Williams.
Nice.
So
another cool thing that I wanted to talk about. So you do that. Now you're into the acting space. You do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And you use real estate to kind of like support your lifestyle, your hobbies, your this, your that. But I guess two things I want to talk about. A, you're constantly outside of your comfort zone. You're constantly growing, constantly stretching. You're constantly, reaching in general. These are new things. I'm sure they're not the last things. I'm sure you have a whole bunch of things in your life, like boxes that you want to check and things you want to try out, which is awesome. So I want to hear about that first and foremost.
Sure. I like to constantly, as you say, grow, and I like to always try new things. I don't necessarily have anything like I'm not saying like right now. Oh, in a few years I'm going to try this. Or as things come up, is when they
just kind of hit you.
They just hit me. I like to move as I feel compelled.
Okay. That's interesting.
So I like, even like with real estate. There's a lot of agents out there. They're prospecting and they're hitting it hard and they're doing great. I don't do that. I have a large referral network, so business just comes to me from friends and family, and mostly friends, not so much family. But so I don't worry about business. And then, like you said, the real estate supports my other hobbies, the comedy and the acting. Mm-hmm. So it affords me the opportunity to do that. But I started at 40. I decided I wanted to learn how to box, and I started boxing at 40.
Yeah.
And then just recently, I started doing kickboxing. Now I'm doing JKD, Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah.
So I'm always like to try. If something seems interesting to me, I'll do it. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, life is really about experiences, and it sounds like, I mean, off air before you were talking about like how you always feel like you're running out of time, which I can relate to because I've always felt that way. I mean, you had an event happen in your life which triggered that.
Well, actually, I'd always had that. Like I always rushed through everything because I always felt like there wasn't enough time. And then, and I'm talking about as a kid.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't necessarily live my life like, oh my God, I'm afraid that I'm going to die, or I'm afraid that I just always felt like there was never enough time, and maybe it was because my days weren't necessarily structured like or time blocked. I mean, they were structured obviously through the jobs, but I always felt like that. And then I had the heart attack at 50. I turned 50, and then 3 months later I had the heart attack, and
welcome to 50.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It was. Luckily, I was working out the way I did. I used to train at a place called TFW, Training for Warriors. It's now called Life.
Yep.
Long Island Fitness. I forget exactly what it stands for. But thankfully, I worked out so much with them that my heart was very strong because the Widowmaker artery was 100% blocked. The artery above that was 70% blocked. 2 other arteries were 100% blocked, and another one was 80% blocked. So
did you have stents? Or did you have open?
I have 7 stents put in.
Wow.
So I also ignored my chest pain for 4 days.
Wow.
Yeah. And the night I decided to finally go to the hospital, I did a full Muay Thai workout, kickboxing workout. So
with chest pains.
Actually, ironically, I did not have the chest pain while working out, because what was happening was, you make deals with yourself, and so I would, like, the morning that I had the chest pain, first I thought it was indigestion because I had me and my buddy stopped to get some pizza after we did a radio show, and we stopped to get some pizza, and it was the middle of the night, and I thought maybe I was having some indigestion, and I realized that it was probably a little more than indigestion. So I said, well, because if you sometimes when you have a heart attack, you'll throw up. I just know this from having been an EMT. And
That makes sense.
and I said, well, if I throw up, I'll go to the hospital.
Actually, that actually makes it even crazier. You have the medical training and experience to know what's going on.
And I knew exactly what was going on.
And
I just chose to ignore it.
You just didn't want to deal with it.
I didn't want to deal with it. So I made a deal with myself. So if I throw up, we'll call the ambulance. Well, I didn't throw up, so the chest pain goes away. The next day, I'm at the office and I'm getting chest pain, and I said, all right, I'm going to go to the hospital. I said, but I'm going to go home. This is what you think about. I said, I'm not going to be able to find parking at the hospital, so let me go home and I'll call the ambulance.
What?
I don't know. So then I go home and I said, all right, I'm going to sit on the couch, and if the chest pain goes away, I'm not going to go to the hospital. Well, it went away. The next day, I'm in Queens at a class that we were taking with Keller Williams, and I'm getting chest pain and I'm sweating, and I know exactly what's going on.
You have the tingly arm
No,
thing?
I didn't have that.
Okay.
I sweat. I knew exactly. So I left the room and I sat down, and a lot of this would be after eating. So as much as I knew it was a heart attack,
You're like, maybe it's indigestion.
well, that's what was happening. Was I was convincing myself because it was happening after I ate. So I said, it's not a heart attack, and I knew damn well that it was a heart attack. So I ended up getting the chest pain. It goes away. I drive home to Queens, but on my way home, I called my doctor and I said, look, I've been getting some chest pains. Can I come in? So they're like, yeah, come in tomorrow. Then they call me right back, like, look, if you have chest pain, you should go to the hospital. I said, well, I don't have chest pain right now. I'll just come in tomorrow. Well, I woke up in the morning, no chest pain, nothing. So I was like, I don't even go to the doctor. Went to the gym. I came home and everything was bothering me. Like I walked in the house. My daughter, I have a chair that I like to sit in. She was sitting in my chair. It was bothering me. My dog came over to be pet, and it was bothering me. My favorite TV show was on television. It was bothering me. So like I was now it's the anxiety and the was kicking in. So my wife's like, oh, you're very pale. So I said, I'm just gonna go up and take a shower. And like I said, it just worked out. And I also knew something wasn't right because I never cut my workouts. And I actually told my trainer that day, 10 minutes before the hour was up, I said, I'm done. He said, all right, just go home and relax. And so I never stopped my workouts. I worked right to the end. So I get home and I said, I'm going to take a shower. And I get in the shower and I feel better. And I come down and I told my wife, I said, look, you're going to have to call the ambulance. I'm having a heart attack here. So I went to the ambulance. The ambulance shows up. I walked out to the ambulance, and then I just went in there. I said, look, I'm having a heart attack. You're going to have to start a line. And, he knew what he was doing. He's a paramedic. Yeah. But,
Were they looking at you like they believed you? Or?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I told him my background, and I told him everything was going on. So I went over to South Nassau, and they took a chest X-ray, and they're like, yeah, you. And they said, we're going to try to put stents in. If we can't do that, you're going right over to St. Francis. But fortunately, they were able to do the stents.
Wow. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I'm lucky to be alive. I'm happy to be alive.
So you never actually had the full-blown heart attack?
No, I did.
Oh, you actually
all that chest pain was all heart attack. I'm lucky there was no damage.
Yeah.
So they put the 7 stents in because the arteries were all clogged, and
so
they said they were clogged for a while.
How? So you're just really lucky.
I am.
How does a situation like that kind of change your perspective?
Well, you realize that there's a lot of living to do, and I was a little wild. Not like in trouble wild, but just wild, and I did what I want, how I want, and thankfully I have a wife that never put a stop to anything that I wanted to do. She supports everything I do, so I have no complaints there. So what would happen is now I was just like, first I realized I had to make some changes, but I didn't right away. I was still eating not the best foods. Drinking, I still drink. I didn't want to face now that I had to change.
Yeah.
But I realized, did I have this like? I think what you're trying to ask me is like, now did I feel like, oh my God, now I have to live? Because,
I'm just curious to know how it changed your.
Because I was always involved in doing stuff. So it's not like, oh my God, like I almost died, so now I'm going to go out of control and try to make up for any sort of lost time. It just, we were talking about it a little earlier. A friend of mine had sent me a video from Gary Vaynerchuk talking about, because again, we were talking about running out of time, and he saw this video, goes, Frank, this reminds me of you because you're always doing new stuff. And it was that video that made me realize that we're all going to run out of time, but it doesn't matter. Do everything that you want to do. And and he would say, well, people would say to me, well, what if I die tomorrow? He says, well, then you die tomorrow. There's nothing you can do about it. But, you know, like I said, I'm working on the acting, and my intent is to work and to get my own TV show and to be in movies and to be on television. And, you know, so I'm working on that. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I'm having fun while making it happen.
Yeah, so there's two things that just popped in my mind I want to ask you about. So I know you started off with the comedy, because I remember that, because I met you when you were kind of going into the comedy. So I want to ask you, like, so how did that happen? And then B, I want to kind of know what it feels like to go up on that stage for the first time.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's got to be as gut-wrenching of an experience as possible.
Yes.
And inevitably, like, failure is a part of life. You have to fail to succeed. So you
Absolutely.
have to bomb at some point, in order to get better.
Correct.
And get to the level that
Correct.
you are now growing to. So that I want to hear about that experience.
All right. Well, I got into stand-up comedy. I was always considered a funny guy, but I was extremely, extremely introverted growing up. Most people don't believe this. They don't remember it. My friends.
Yeah.
They're like, no, you wouldn't. So introverted and so shy. I couldn't talk to anybody. Definitely not girls. And even talking to people, I was so introverted. So, but I was always a funny guy, and then what happened is working for New York City EMS, I realized I had to talk to people because I had to diagnose them, and that started to get me out of my shell. I also, a good buddy of mine, Brian McCauley, he's passed from 9/11 cancer already, but he also, growing up, I've known him since kindergarten, he would help me, like he would take me out, like he'd say, oh, we're all going out, you're coming. You know, as opposed to where I would be like, no, I'm going to go home. He's, no, we're going out. And so he helped me get out of my shell, and I really put it on him that helped me. Mm-hmm. So fast forward now, I was always a funny guy, and I was one of those guys that would kind of heckle I'd go like a comedy show, and I would heckle, not like the you suck heckle.
Yeah.
Like, the comedian would tell a joke, and then I would add something to that joke. It's called the enhancer. Mm-hmm. It's a form of heckling, and it's annoying. And now I don't do it anymore since I'm on the stage. But then I realized my son is at the time was 15, and I noticed he was a little shy, and I didn't want him to grow up like I did.
Interesting.
So we took a comedy class together. I said, let's take this stand-up comedy class, and I figured we'd give him confidence to talk and be in front of people. And myself included, you know, although I was past my shyness at that point. So we took the class together, and we started doing stand-up. Now, he's gone on to college, so he doesn't get to perform as much. And then I went, and I've been performing. But I remember my first night, it's the graduation show. And it was at the Brokerage in Belmore. And I remember being so scared. But there was no turning back. So they call me, I go up on the stage, and I tell my first joke, and the crowd laughs. I mean, get huge laughs. And you could feel like you were sweating. It felt like somebody opened a door and let a cool breeze in, because it was just such a relief. And you're up there. I was up there for about 5 minutes telling the jokes, and
nice.
I got laughs the whole time. So it was really good.
What does that feel like?
It's such a high. It's a euphoria. Like people should try it. I mean, I'm not saying they have to go out and become stand-up comedians, but they really to stand in front of a crowd and give a speech, or to do comedy. It's such a euphoria, because it was such a natural high, and I would get a lot of adrenaline rushes as a cop. Yeah. I wasn't getting them anymore.
Yeah.
Now I got an adrenaline rush.
I was just going to ask you that. Yeah, because I feel like, so me in my life, like, I need action.
Absolutely.
Like,
and that's why I'm not stagnant, because I need action.
Yeah.
In life, I it's a different kind of action, but I need something to keep me to feel alive.
Yeah, something that gets the adrenaline going.
Yeah,
it's like it's a need for
and
you.
for you, probably when you've been working on getting a building or a house and the deal's not working out, and all of a sudden you get it, or you say, oh, I've been wanting to get that building, and all of a sudden it's up for sale, and bam, I got it.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you have other ways as well. So I need action. I need to, because otherwise I feel like I said, stagnant. I feel like there's nothing going on, and then I feel like I have no purpose.
No, I guess it makes sense. If you're not driving or trying to achieve something, it's like what's the point in being alive?
Right.
That's
and what was that expression? Life is a contact sport, and I'm definitely involved in that, and I'm not an observer. I'm a full participant in life.
So the more I think about it, the more it's like we kind of have these, I guess, biological and psychological needs of adrenal interaction, whatever it is. And when you go through these different phases in your life, it's not so much what it was you were doing, it's the feelings associated with that. So it's like when you were a police officer, you were hardwired you're a certain kind of person. You need action, you need adrenaline, you need X, Y, Z flowing through your body. Now that that's gone, it's like, all right, what do I do? You're kind of like going through physical withdrawal in a sense.
Absolutely. And that, like I said, that time that I was laying on the couch, I was trying to figure out what am I doing? Because listen, real estate's great. But for me, it doesn't give me an adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
So I needed something, and so the comedy gives me the adrenaline rush, and the acting. I love performing.
And I guess another thing that I'm just like kind of thinking to myself in the moment. You get to the point where you've done something for a while that maybe the adrenaline wears off,
Yes.
and you get bored.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And now you need the next fix.
Yes.
It's a little twisted now that I think about it.
That's exactly right. Like one of the first businesses I started was a little messenger business, and I grew too fast. I outgrew my capital, so I ended up.
Where was it?
This was in the 90s.
Okay.
This was
That's funny because my father actually owned a messenger service in Manhattan in the 90s.
Yeah, mine was
80s
based
and 90s.
On Long Island. It was called On the Spot Deliveries.
Good name.
And I outgrew my capital. I didn't know anything about business.
Yeah.
I learned more about business in the year or so, or probably 2 years that I had that business than you could learn in business school. But so I outgrew my capital. I ran into the ground. Then my wife opened up the bar, and we spun a little catering company off of that. Mm-hmm. It was great. I got to the point where cooking for 150 people was no different than cooking for 4 people. I conquered it.
Yes.
So it didn't bring me any satisfaction anymore. So I went on to something else. Who knows? I don't remember exactly what I went on to from there. But you're exactly right. It is twisted, and it is. It's like a junkie that needs his high. I need something. So you're right. Once I get bored with something, I move on.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because I basically just learned that about myself through having this conversation with you. So that's interesting. I'm curious to know what's the future. What's the future in your real estate life? What are the next? Because you're a young guy, you got a lot of time, right?
Yes, I do.
How what's your future in real estate look like? What's the next adventure? What's comedy and acting?
Well, the comedy. I just started my own little comedy company called Remember the Laughter. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Good name.
So you can
damn good name.
You can hire us out for corporate events, fundraisers.
You have a team of people?
It's me, and then I get the comedians because they all freelance.
Okay.
But what'll happen is I have enough people that if you hired us twice, you wouldn't get the same show because there's enough comedians that you can rotate them around.
Nice.
So I just started that. As far as real estate, I don't really put that much thought into a lot of stuff because, like I said, I kind of just live, and as it rolls out, it rolls out. But I would say I don't really have any. I'm not a traditional goal setter. Mm-hmm. I think goals are limiting to a point where and then what happens is. Yeah, I should say I do make little goals. I guess you'd call them that. Like here, my intent I said is to get my own TV show. That's obviously a goal.
Yeah.
But I haven't said I have to do it by this time or I have to do it by that time.
No, I get it.
So I'm not really a goal setter. I just kind of let things go. So as far as the real estate is, whatever happens, happens.
Do you which is interesting. You're living life. You're enjoying it. Every day you wake up, you have a certain plan, but at the same time, you going with the flow.
Correct.
Would you say a lot of the clients, like, did your career as in police and fire and EMS, is that kind of helped you with your network? Do you deal with a lot of people that are in that space?
Yeah. A lot of the cops, when I was a sergeant, I told you I was handling the rookies. They all got to a point where they started to buy houses. So a couple of them hired me to help them buy houses, and then they referred me to family
and friends
that were selling or buying. So yeah, that absolutely is a great network of people to have.
It just comes down to the power of the network. Like, I remember my first mentor, Carl, always said to me, like, the power of your network is the most important thing.
Yes.
And a lot of agents now are like, they're struggling. They're like, how do I get business? Like, you have to pick a group or multiple groups that you can get involved in that can then become a referral base.
Right. I own a classic muscle car, 72 Nova, and just from that car, I got one guy gave me 5 referrals.
Wow.
He loved my car. I pulled into the car show. It was the first year I had it. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I got the car, and he had a Nova also. And I pulled in. He comes over. He starts talking to me, and we became friends. And I said, look, I gave him my card. So I'm just giving you my card so you have my contact information. I wasn't trying to, like, here's my card. I'm a realtor. And he's referred me himself. I sold his house.
Nice.
I helped his sister buy a house. He referred me a friend of theirs who sold a house and bought a house, and now his brother-in-law also just bought a house.
It's 5 transactions.
So yeah,
that's the thing. I think people overthink it, but it's really that simple. It's opening your mouth to be friendly, nice, helpful. Don't be afraid to give people your card, and then you don't know where your next lead or referral is coming from.
You don't, and so now this guy, we don't hang out, and we talk, but we know, but he constantly refers me, and that's what's important is you want to have people out there that are, I like to call it, I got it out of a book, so it's not original. You need to have an army of ambassadors representing you. So every time somebody is out there referring you, that's like an ambassador for you. I got that from the book The Go-Giver.
Okay.
And it's a great book. So to me, it's more important to be referred than to just knock doors and send out mailings and say, do you want to sell your house? I mean, it works. Agents do it. It's just not for me.
I think one of the important things to take away is, and I've been saying this for years, is the awesome thing about real estate is it can be whatever you want it to be. It can be like, do you want to make millions of dollars? Do you want to be an investor? Do you want to be a realtor selling high-end stuff? Like, what's your purpose? Are you a teacher and you need some money to get you through the summer, so you sell a few properties? It could be the best side hustle.
Right.
It can be whatever you want it to be, and whatever you put into it, you're going to get out of it.
Correct. And that's why I like real estate. And listen, I like real estate just enough not to love it, and I love it just enough not to hate it. Okay, that's my own. That one
That's a Frankie File.
That's a Frankie File one. Yes. But it does afford me to do what I want when I want. And it's nice because I can make as much. I think it's probably the only one I can think of where you have unlimited earning potential. The only job I can think of where you have unlimited earning potential.
And that really, for me, like when I thought about the different facets of real estate, and I thought about you, I'm like, this is a perfect episode. I got to get Frank on because it's a little bit different than normal, meaning like you're using it as a challenge, as a springboard, as a way to enjoy other things in your life, as a way to leverage your network and make money. It's a great thing. It's a good thing for people to see that real estate can be whatever you want it to be.
And I also with the different like I'm not a traditional networker. I don't go to after hour networking events and stuff like that because I've gone to them, and the first thing people do is they walk up to you and they stick their card in your face and they, not asking me who I am, not ask, like when I meet somebody, the first thing I'll ask them what they do, and then I say, well, who's a good client for you, because I want to be able to refer you to somebody.
Yeah.
And then, but when people, they just come up and they hand you their card, that that's not networking.
No.
It's not the right way to network. Even on LinkedIn, somebody I once posted, if you're just connecting with me for the sake of connecting, then don't. Introduce yourself. Tell me about yourself. What is it that I can do for you? Ultimately, I'd like to know what kind of referral you can give me, but to just connect with people, say, oh, I have 800 connections on LinkedIn.
No, it's stupid. It doesn't make
do
sense.
any good. And only one guy, and I give him credit, is an insurance guy. He saw that. He actually sent me a message introducing himself, mentioned that he has a lead. He gets buyer leads, and that he would like to sit down and talk to me. So we sat down. We had coffee. Turns out he's from Merrick, and we went to the same high school. He's a little younger than me, but
nice.
And I was able to. I referred somebody to him for a price quote for the homeowners insurance, and he has sent me, 3 buyer leads. And he goes, I don't know how good they are. It's up to you to work them.
Of course, but it's an opportunity.
But it's an opportunity. So even if he sends me 100 and I get 1 or 2, it was well worth it.
No, it makes perfect sense. People and this just started happening recently with the podcast and stuff. There'd be people that, I'm grateful that they want to do this. I'm humbled by this, but there's people that I don't know who just send me an email saying, I want to be on your podcast. And it's like, I don't know you. I don't know you. I don't know anything about you. We're not even connected. Where are you coming from? So I think, to your point, there's a process by which you're supposed to want to get to know people to get to know them.
Look, I've known you, what?
3-4 years, probably?
Yeah, and it took us a year and a half, 2 years to get our first deal together.
At least, maybe a little longer.
Might have been even a little longer than that.
So,
and now we got some other stuff in the works, and everything falls into place.
I always say it's like breaking the seal. Once you break the seal,
yeah.
But it's like you and I, we work together because we enjoy each other's company.
Yes.
We have a good friendship, working business relationship. We laugh. We have a good time. Yeah. If you need something, I'm there for you. If I need something, you're there for me. And that's really what it's about. The business part is a bonus. It's great. But in general, we have a good relationship.
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
is what I think
that's
people
important.
overlook.
Yeah, and you need to have some sort of relationship. It can't just be all business. And I'm not saying, we have to have dinner at each other's house and coming over for the holidays. You can have people in that you do business with that are like that, but sometimes you just need to just have a relationship and know a little something about the person.
Exactly. I know. To close it out, I know that you are mentoring and helping agents. You have done that. Is that something you're continuing to do now?
I do, because what happened was when I started in the business, nobody helped me. And I also found that every agent said they'll help you for a fee.
Yeah.
I'll go on your listing appointment, but it's 50%. I'll do this. And I said, everyone's got their hand in my pocket. So I feel that you shouldn't be charging people stuff all the time.
Yeah.
So I try to teach classes. I was teaching a little bit at Keller Williams, which I love to do. I love teaching. I love because it's a little form of performing. I get to interject my comedy and a little improv there. But I enjoy teaching. So I have a young girl that's now not a girl, she's a woman. It's actually I sold her and her husband their house.
Okay.
Now she's become a realtor.
Nice.
And she's working with me, and I'm mentoring her, and I'm giving her leads. I'm helping her build her business, and perhaps we'll form a team, perhaps we won't. We're not worried about that yet. My thing is to get her started up and running. So I give her buyer leads. I take a little percentage off of that as a referral fee because that's the norm in the business.
But that's fine.
But when she calls me up and says, "Can you help me with this?" Absolutely. And a lot of the young agents, I just tell them, "Call me." If you have, I'll go on a buyer consult with you and help you speak to a buyer and show you what they need. I don't need half your money for that.
Yeah.
It's enough. You gotta share with your brokerage. So to start getting your hands in everybody's pocket, I don't like that.
Nitpick on everything. I know. If agents are interested in learning from somebody like yourself with your experience, how do they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out? Or if they want to book you for comedy, or if the next scout is listening to this and he's looking for a fresh idea for a TV show, how do they get a hold of you?
And they can reach me at my cell phone. It's 516-644-3751. If you're interested in the comedy, you can go to rememberthelaughterny.com.
Love the name, man.
Thank you. And then you can always go to my real estate website, which is I always forget it because I never go to it. It's frankfowlerhomesli.com. That's it. So you could go there. Facebook, I'm all over Facebook. So you could look me up on Facebook as well.
Nice. Yo, you're a gentleman. I love you.
No,
Always
thank you
good
for having me,
seeing you.
man. I said I never asked to be on anyone's podcast, but I knew it was coming. I knew.
Did you? You felt it?
Yeah. You put it out to the universe. I'm kind of that guy. I'm
Yeah.
like, Charlie's gonna have me on his podcast,
And then boom.
and I said it a couple of months ago, but I knew it was coming.
Nice.
I knew you would, and I'm happy to be here, and I appreciate you having me on.
It was cool, man. It was great advice. I hope people listen and they take from
Yeah, I hope
it
they like
what
the
they
show.
will.
I
So,
hope they weren't looking for me to do stand-up comedy, but
There's a time and place for everything.
there is. But if anyone cares, I'll be at Governor's on July 21st,
Right.
Sunday night.
All right, maybe I'll get an invite this time.
Yes.
Because I always say to you, I really want the invite, and you say I'll invite you, and then you don't.
Well, I don't get to play the clubs too often, so it's not that I'm not inviting you. It's a lot of the shows I do are charity fundraisers, and they're firehouse shows. But I will definitely send you the invite.
I'm there, Governors, July 21st. If you have a house that smells like cat pee, is dated from the 1960s, has commercial property, land, non-performing notes, performing notes, anything real estate related, you want to call me, 516-777-SOLD. If you have a permit problem, and Lord knows if you don't have one today, you will have one tomorrow. Think of the captain, 516-513-8838. That's a wrap.
Orgulloso estoy de